Hey BFD, it's your girl Lucky. I just want to say hello starting off, and I'm sorry I'm late. I'm going to get right into this. The defining moments video for me is quite serious, and I actually can't narrow it down. I really can't, just because it has made me ED, which I make up my own words if you haven't noticed. It's emotionally disturbed, but I'm not mad either. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay to cry, and it's okay to go through things and filter through. And yeah, I know a lot of people say don't dwell and hold grudges and stuff, which is kind of true, but I do that. But when you've been through a lot of stuff, and my things are trauma based, a lot of them, you can't help but it. Some certain smells flick it off for me, an image of something, a sound of something, and all those memories can't go away. And with that said, that's kind of what my defining moments is. When I lived in New York City, I was trying so hard to be successful, and I was trying so hard to be alone and be on my own and come up. I was trying to be a performer. I don't know what I was thinking. I had dreams. I didn't care if I was going to be rich or famous. I just had dreams, and I was in a small town prior, so I felt some encouragement, but not enough, and I just wanted different. Like, everybody's in this small town, and I feel like not everybody's trying to leave it and be different or successful or whatever. And I just didn't have the knowledge for college, but I knew that I could do other things, and that's what I wanted to do. But the reality hit. I traveled. I lived other places. I tried being in recording studios, trying out for plays and stuff, and I didn't always get the things that I wanted to. And then when I first was being hooked up with like management and sponsors and stuff like that, I mean, it was really hard work. And all the plays and solos I had, and dances I did when I was in high school just didn't compare. But I'm not disencouraging anybody else to try to chase their dream. I just came, across some things that I thought, well, I'm going to get my way up, and I met some bad people, and it scared me at first, and I didn't do everything at first, but I was a little gullible and vulnerable, and I got taken advantage of a lot, and then I turned that pain and guilt and shame into more bogus shit, you know what I'm saying? I felt like I was being used because a lot of my jobs were being in-home nanny and working through this stupid company that I did over the paper, actually. And it just kind of started from there, like a downward spiral. People were blaming me for stuff that I didn't do. And I was an outcast because I was this white girl from the Midwest. And I don't know if you know this, but when you're on the East Coast, it's like some people just know New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, and Massachusetts, and it's like anything beyond that, they think it's like a different culture, country, whatever. And I'm like, what? That's weird. But it's very interesting. So yeah, so I got hooked up with some bad crowds. I was under 21 at this time and was doing a lot of crazy things. Some of it was peer pressure. Some of it was I'm in a situation, I don't have a choice to get out, so I had to do some shit, and not even realizing the type of people I was around, gangs and stuff like that. And a few short experiences and moments for me was enough, so I thought. Until the first time I got beat down on the train tracks and left for dead, shot at, stabbed. Then I was almost gang raped at the studio, not too long after that, and it was just crazy. Like, you have to sell drugs and this, that, and other. I'm like, whatever. Like, I didn't even know anything beyond marijuana existed. And of course I was around big dogs that were like, never try your own supply, and don't do this, do that, or whatever, and in New York it's a little bit more serious for me, and I was able to kind of get away from that, you know what I'm saying, and I was proud of myself. But then I got pregnant, and I was in a relationship with somebody that really didn't love me, and I guess to now I know I didn't love him. And I was fighting for who I wanted to be, which wasn't going to happen anymore, and that was kind of hard for me, but I loved my daughter, and I was willing to make things work. However, I knew New York just wasn't for me anymore, and I couldn't afford to do it on my own, so I came back to the Midwest, and I tried to do it bigger and better, but in a different way, and getting jobs, and then I would, wouldn't get jobs that paid enough, and then I got stupidly mixed up in some credit card crap, and just got over my head. After the World Trade Center, I'm like, I'm going to get my life together. Was going to school, working full time, and trying to take care of her. And right underneath me was her dad trying to take her away. I'm like, you have no reason to take her away. It was all about the child support. And this does not apply to every parent or dad, so FYI. because he was very money hungry. He was very materialistic. I give him credit for working for what he had, but he was extremely rude and emotional and abusive to me over that kind of crap. And I just really felt like he didn't give a crap about my daughter. And some of it, honestly, was about the fact that I wasn't going to have a family with him anymore. And, so I'm like, yeah, take me to court, whatever. I didn't even have a lawyer. And the first couple times he did, and he lost. I'm like, I got this. But I moved a little, he actually moved out here too, and then I moved away, and not too far, just down back into the city, try to put my daughter in a good school. And I lost my job, and then I couldn't afford to do all those things anymore, and got back into the lifestyle. Thought it'd just be a quick fix and stuff. For all those years or times that I was around all that BS, I never did drugs for the most part, as far as like, I drank, I maybe puffed, weed or whatever once in a while. I can't even smoke. I don't even like it. I have asthma. But I'm like, whatever. But the first time, well, this wasn't the first time, but here anyways, and where I am now, that I got beat up by a gang member or a drug dealer or whatever. When you're being pistol whipped and you're being forced to try their supply so they don't have to do it, it was like better than going to the ER and getting Vicodin, because they only give you 10. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, all those times that I didn't try it, all those things that I was saying that I wasn't going to do, and I held out for so long, I was now doing. Now, this doesn't make it better, and I'm not promoting it, but I always thought like I still had it under control, because I'm only going to do a little bit. I'm only going to do it for a little time. I'm going to get this little bit of money. I'm going to make, this friend and get rid of them, and then I'll be okay, and nobody can take my house away or my daughter or my job or whatever. But the times were hard, and I was approaching winter, and I had bills to pay and her to take care of. At this time, her daughter, or her father was taking her every weekend, so I was like bored and lonely. All this hard, good parenting that I was trying to do was like partially taken away. And, that just gave me more time to do more things, which weren't good. And it was addicting. That part was addicting before the drugs became addicting. And then I started making rules and goals that weren't good or healthy. And just one time my daughter came home and she witnessed me being beat up and drug out my house by a drug dealer. And, she had been gone at school all day, and she came home, and I just was not expecting that. Or to see the look on her face, it was just the worst thing in the world. So it kind of makes me sad, but I thought I'm going to do whatever I can to get away from that and get out of it. And I knew it wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't. Soon after, and very fastly, became addicted to drugs, mainly powder cocaine. I wasn't keeping up with the supply and demand that I was supposed to do as far as selling, because I was so addicted and I was so stressed out and caught up in that shit. And then one day I went to answer my door, and I got served eviction notice papers. And another day, probably within the same week, I was introduced to some strange white man, which was a shock to me, at my door, because I hung out with a lot of minorities. He served me papers, and that was for her dad to get custody. And I was like, something I thought I'd never go through, but I guess one morning when I was high, and I can't say I guess because I kind of know this, I just thought being honest is the best thing for me. That's how I've kind of always been. Even when I've done bad stuff, I just couldn't do it. That wasn't me, so I always came through somehow. And I thought, if anybody needs to know what's going on right now, it's Jasmine's dad. He was actually doing part-time work in a boys' home, and I just figured he would understand, especially coming from New York and living on the Lower East Side and being through certain things himself, as seen in his community. And we were not best friends by any means, but I just thought it's okay to be honest, and maybe he'll help me. And I just said, I'm high, I'm doing drugs, this happened. And he was asking me questions, and I don't remember all of them, but ding dong, the witch is dead. I was being tape recorded, and it got thrown right back at me, like within a few days. He had hired a lawyer, and yeah, that was like a defining moment for me, because I'm now facing homelessness, I'm facing joblessness, I'm facing addiction and rehab, and then I'm losing my daughter and having to go to court way out in a county that I had no way to half the time. So it was crazy to get out there by a bus or a cab or walk even.